Okay, so hello ladies and gentlemen. This is a screencast about how to make a scatter plot in Excel. Now this is my first ever screencast. This is obviously very exciting times. And yes, as you know, I am Mad Lacey. Hello everybody. So if anything I've massively messed up or confused you about in the course of this screencast, please do feel free to email me and tell me how I've done it wrong. So we use a scatter plot in Excel for things like growth curves, enzyme reactions. We use a scatter plot rather than a line graph or a line plot because it means that if we've done something like gone for lunch, the data can still be plotted as a function of time, and I'll come on to show you how that is in a minute. So to start off with, obviously you've got to lay out your data, and I've cheated a little bit here because I've already put mine in. So I put my data into columns rather than rows, and I think this is just a much clearer way of laying it out, and the vast majority of people I know lay it out this way. You could obviously lay it out the other way. You could lay it out in rows, and I think that would be fine. I just think that obviously if you're doing it the opposite way to me, you might get a bit confused. So I've got a column for the minutes. And so what I've done here is I've done two growth curves. So I've got minutes down here. So I've taken a reading every 30 minutes. Except for here, you can see in my hypothetical growth curve world, I went for lunch. And then I carried on all the way up to my 6 hours, which is my 360 minutes. And then I've got my growth conditions 1, and this is the OD 600s I took for my flask, or OD 540s, or however I was measuring the growth of those cells, and here I've got a second set of data to go with it. So like I said, we're going to make this data into a scatter plot rather than a line plot to sort of account for this, this sort of lunch break here. I could plot both of them on the same graph at the same time, but I'm not going to show you how to do that. I'm going to show you how to do it a slightly more complicated way, just so you appreciate some of the functionalities of Excel. So to start off with, I'm just going to plot a curve for my first set of growth conditions. So I've just highlighted the minutes, and this will be what runs along as my x-axis, and my growth conditions, and this will be my OD 540, which will run up my y-axis. I'm going to click on scatter plot, and I would like a scatter plot with the lines joined up so I can see what's happening. Lovely. Okay, so this is the plot that it's made for me. So all Excel's done here is it's joined the dots and put a little bit of a curve in. So this isn't necessarily a particularly good line of best fit. It's just sort of Excel's doing the best job it can. I choose the curve one for growth curves just because I think it looks a little bit more representative of the true line of best fit. So this is my scatter plot. And as you can see here where I went for lunch, it's got a line that's obviously just a little bit further between the gaps, and that's sort of what we expected, isn't it? Is the fact that it hasn't squidged them up. It's allowed that time to be an hour, and they're an hour apart rather than 30 minutes. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually I don't really like the fact that it's put is 100 hours and then 200 hours, because I'm sort of thinking about the minutes that are going off here. So I actually want this axis to say 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 90 minutes, etc. So to do that, I'm going to click on my y-axis, so this little box comes around it like this. And then I'm going to go back into that box and I'm going to right-click until I get this little menu, and I'm going to go down to the bottom to where it says Format Axis, and I'm going to click on that. And my computer's going to have a little bit of a think. And then what I would like is I'm going to alter these options here. So the minimum is on automatic, and it's telling me that it's chosen 0 for that, which is obviously correct because you want it to start at 0 minutes, because that's my first time point. It's going up to a maximum of 400, and I think that's pretty rubbish. I think that actually I'd like it to finish when my experiment's finished and not sort of have an overhang. So I'm going to tell it that I'd like that to be 360, and I'd like my major units to be every hour, so that's every 60 minutes, and my minor units, which you can't actually see on here, but if you wanted to put them on you could do. So I'll just put 30 minutes, but I don't think you'll be able to see them. So that's how I do that, and then it's updated that as I did that automatically. As you can see this changing, because I just have to press close, I don't have to press save or anything. And I think that that makes it much easier for me to see what's going off, because now I can see 60 minutes is that one, 120 minutes is that one. So it's just much clearer for me to see what's going off. So it's put this data series in, and it's labelled it Series 1, which is not the best label for some data. So what I'm going to do is I want to alter that to say growth conditions 1 up here. So how I'm going to do that is I'm going to go into Chart Tools, Design, Select Data. It's already on this sort of menu because I haven't come out of sort of making my graph yet, but if I did come out of it and went into Home, I could find that again by just clicking on my chart, clicking on Chart Tools, on Design, and then into Select Data. What I'm doing is I'm just pulling these boxes down every time so I can see what's going off, because sometimes when you alter things in these menus, the graph will automatically update as you're doing it. It just tells you, you can just see if you've done something really stupid and it's all just gone a bit crazy, you'll be able to see it before you sort of press save and come out of it. So this is my Series 1, so I'm going to click on it, I'm going to click Edit, and what would I like my series to be called? So I could either write Growth Condition 1 in here, or I could press equals and then click on the cell where I've already named that series, and then I can either click on OK or I could just press enter. And then I'm just going to press OK again to come out of that. And now I've got this curve, which is in this nice beautiful blue colour, and then that's there as well. I'm going to get rid of that because I don't want my whole graph to be titled Growth Conditions 1, so I'm just going to press delete to get rid of that. So we've laid out our data into our columns, we've made our scatter plot, we've put a series in and we've named it Growth Conditions 1. What we're going to do now is we're going to add this second one on. So again, I'm going to click on my chart, Chart Tools, Design, Select Data, and now I'm going to add another series. My series name, I'm going to press equals, I'm going to tell it I'd like it to be called Growth Conditions 2. Again, I could just type whatever I wanted it to be called into that box and that would come up just there. My Y values are the same Y values as for my other growth condition, which are here. My X values are the same as this one here. And my Y values, I'm just making sure that I get rid of this little thing that it's pre-filled it with, are just here. And then I'm going to press OK again. And you can see that that has updated. So now I've got both of them on at the same time. This isn't particularly neat. I don't really like all this space that's sort of going off over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the area where the graph itself is and then pull on this little square to pull it across. And now obviously now this legend is sort of now overlapping and that doesn't look very good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move that to this space over here. And I think that looks much more smart. I think I might just try and get it to go not between the lines like that. Yeah, so I think I like that the best. Just as a point of note, if you're going to print this off in black and white, sometimes Excel chooses colours automatically that you can't see the difference between them very well in black and white. I mean, here you're sort of alright because growth condition 2's got squares and growth condition 1's got diamonds, but you might want to change one of these colours to a much darker colour. And you can do that by clicking on the curve that you want to change, right-clicking and going down to Format Data Series, and then here I can click Line Colour. It's saying automatic, and I'm going to say no thank you, I'd like to choose it and I'd like it to be solid, and then colour I think I'm going to pick quite a dark, like that blue, quite a dark blue. And then obviously you just need to do the same for the marker as well. So I've just clicked on marker fill there, solid fill, I'm going to pick the same colour, that nice dark blue. And I know that when I I'm just going to close it. When I print that off, I'll be able to definitely see the difference between those two lines really easily, because one will be quite dark, one will be light, even if I print it off in grayscale. What I want to do now is, obviously I've not got any labels for any of my axes. I don't think that you need to label the graph as in up here, because I think what you'll do when you're writing a report is you'll give yourself a figure legend. So you'll label this figure, for example, like figure 1, growth curve to show growth over 360 hours in growth conditions 1 and 2. You would call this, for example. So I don't think you need anything up here, to be honest, like a title. I think you have that in the legend. But we do want these axis labels. So we're going to click on our chart area again, and we get chart tools up here, design. So that's where that select data was, where we was doing all of our manipulation of what was on our chart and what we were calling our different sets of data. I'm going to go to layout, and in here I've got all my options. So chart title, we don't want one of those. Axis titles, I do think that I would quite fancy an axis title. So I'm going to go for my horizontal axis, display below the title, and I'm going to type this in, and I'm just going to click on it and highlight, and then just type over it, and I'm going to go time, brackets, minutes. And that's obviously all scrunched up, which isn't very good. So again, I can just click on that area and just pull it up a little bit, and obviously I've just not done with the end of my bracket, so I can just click on it and fill that in. And I'm going to do it for the other one as well. So I'm going to go, again, I'm in Chart Tools Layout, Axis Titles. This time I want my vertical axis, and there are a couple more options in here. I think that I would like this one. No, I don't want that one. That's a rubbish one. So I'm going to delete that. I would like this one. Yes, that's the one that I would like. And so this is going to be called OD 420. I'll squidge that in a little bit. So this is a growth curve, and so if you were plotting this graph for enzyme kinetics, that would probably be your scatter plot, and that would be fine. But we're looking at, in this example, we're looking at a growth curve, and growth curves grow in a logarithmic manner. So if we look at growth condition 1, for example here, no, let's choose 2, growth condition 2. You can see that it's having a really, really, really long lag phase here, which is just where the cells are getting used to the environment they're in, possibly altering their metabolism, so they can start doubling again quite quickly. And then you get this area here where you can see they're sort of doubling and then doubling again and then doubling again and doubling again and doubling again, and you can see that that is an exponential curve of growth. And then what happens is, if you're growing them in a flask, they'll always run out of something. So they may run out of oxygen if you've sealed the flask. They may run out of nutrients, they may run out of carbon, they may run out of nitrogen, and then they stop growing. And when they stop growing or really slow down that growth, they enter stationary phase. Most bacteria are actually quite hardy, so you'd have to leave them for quite a long time in that flask before you'd start to see them die. But if you did and you carried that experiment on for long enough, you'd see a death phase, which is where they'd start dying off, and you'd get sort of a curve that goes a little bit like that. So because of this exponential phase, the best way you can visualise that, because obviously it's quite hard to tell whether or not that's an exponential curve or which bit it starts, which bit it ends at, is we tend to plot this axis rather than linearly, we plot it exponentially. So how you do that is you click on this axis, so you get the nice little square around it again, right click within that area, format axis, and you can click here and say logarithmic scale. You can see now your x-axis crosses right up here, which just looks a bit rubbish really. So we want that to come back down here. And how we do that is it says horizontal axis crosses, and it's saying automatic, and we want it to not do automatic because it's done a pretty rubbish job there. So at the value, and I'm going to choose this value here, so it just runs along the bottom there. So I'm going to write 0.01. Obviously, depending on what data you've inputted, that might be a different number. And then I'm just going to press close, and then that will push that back down to the bottom. So now this is on a log scale, as you can see. But you can see the areas where the cells are growing logarithmically, because now rather than having to try and guess how that curve looked, you can see them now because they're a very straight line. So this growth condition 2 is in log phase or logarithmic stage, or exponential phase, whatever you wish to call it, for a long time, whereas growth condition 2 has sort of gone a lot quicker, but done that and then sort of petered out a lot earlier. So that's all I've got to tell you for the screencast. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.